Right. Good morning. I think we all are in a a holiday today. Good morning, Pute. Good morning, Ashane. Good morning. And so I think as Sri Lankans, we have number of holidays during an year, calendar year, right? So one way it is good to a country, most of the time for the students, but to an economy, what we speak about here is for business, right? It is not a good fact to see number of holidays in a calendar year, right? You'll understand the reasons later. So anyway, everybody likes holidays, you and me both. So as the power is getting interrupted right on and off during the daytime, I thought of conducting the session right as a morning session today. And once again, thank you very much for joining. Ashani, good morning. Puta, good morning. And last week, if you can remember, we started the fifth competency, that is accounting equation, right? Accounting equation, one of the most practical and powerful lessons in accounting. Do you know, Puta? If you select commerce as your advanced level stream, right, you will see the same competencies available even in advanced level syllabus, right? But as the name suggests, it is advanced than the theory that we discussed in the things that we discussed in O levels. But for the moment, I think I have introduced the accounting equation, right? How it how it fluctuates, how it changes. I think I have told that to you. Pute, let me share, right, the tutorial for today. Right. I think we have discussed a small homework, right, of yesterday's activity as well, right? Last week's session as well. Now, Puta, accounting equation, right? So last week I told you what are the characteristics of an equation. I told you there should be two elements, right? Those two elements should equal all the time, and there should be an equal sign. I think you have studied. Then, right, give me a minute. I told you right, in the basic accounting equation, right, in the basic accounting equation, always, right, always, right, side A, right, for an example, in an equation, right, side A should equal to side B. Then I told you in accounting, right, we develop the basic accounting equation like this, right? That is, resources of a business equals to the parties who have provided those resources. I think you all can remember. Then I told you parties are two types. Sometimes the owner provides or funding the resources. Api last week ke katha kare menna meya again, right? How to record the transactions in the accounting equation when the owner provides the resources, right? Then I told you, Puta, resources are called as assets. Assets, right? I think you all can remember. When the owner invests capital, assets increases while the equity is also increasing. When the owner has invested cash, when the owner has invested, let's say, capital in a different form. For an example, let's say the owner has invested his personal motor vehicle. Even at that time, right, assets. But this time, the asset name is motor vehicle increases and equity increases. And the name of the equity is capital. I think you all can remember. So today, I'm introducing the second party. That is, do you know sometimes the assets of a business are funded by, introduced by external parties. External parties, right? External parties. So therefore, I think you can understand now the equation has to be changed. Right? Balana puta, this is how we develop the basic accounting equation as I taught you last week. Assets, that means the resources, equals to equity, that is the amount of resources funded by the owner, plus what is the word that we give for them? Liabilities. Liabilities. Right? Now, today we are going to discuss about the entire, right, application of the accounting equation for the entire format. Entire format. So with that understanding, I'm taking you to the tutorial. මම පුතාව ටියුට් එකට ගෙනියනවා. Last week මට මතකයි එක ළමෙක් එවලා තිබ්බ මම එයා ගැන හොඳ කමෙන්ට් එකක් දුන්නා. ටියුට් එකක් පුතා ලස්සනට කම්ප්ලීට් කරලා තිබුණා. right? මම හොඳ කමෙන්ට් එකක් දුන්නා යාට. right? බලමු. එයා ඉන්නවද මෙතන අද? නෑ අද ඇවිල්ලා නෑ නේ. No, he's not here. Right? So just keep up the good work පුතා. Keep up the good work. Right. Now, accounting equation. Right. Now, I told you here, we discuss about situations, right, when the resources have been funded both by the owner and the external parties. Right? External parties. Then hagana puta mamme kiyenne. Harida? Now, I think you know the answers for the followings. Mama hitana putala mekata uttare danna නැති කියලා. The value of the assets financed by the owner, with the red pen, write this down, are called as equity. The value of the assets financed by the owner or owners. I told you accounting is a language. It's a language. So get used to these words. And the value of the assets financed by the external parties are called as liabilities. Equity, liabilities. Harida. දැන් ඔන්න මම පුතාට චූටි වැඩක් දෙන්නයි යන්නේ. I think you all have written this. පුතේ. Can you answer, right, question number 7? Just 1 minute. Harima lazy. Harima lazy. Taggala karana bala. Activity number 7. Tilini has introduced 250,000 as capital on 1st January 2021. And it obtained a bank loan valued 80,000 on the same day. You have to recognize the assets as at 1st January 2021. Right? Give me the total or the value of assets as at 1st of January. Drop me a text. උත්තරයක් ගන්න ඔෂානි අෂේන් හරිම ලේසි පුතා. Ashin, very good. Very good. Others? Others? Dishans? Binan? Yes, Duniti, very good pute. But තේරුණාද දැන් වෙනදී? Sanuka? Send me the answer pute. Janidu? Send me the answer for activity number 7. හරිම ලේසි. මේ බලා ගන්නකො පුතා මේ දැන් මම පුතාලා මේවට දැන් පොඩි පොඩි ගණන් වලට දැන් හුරු වෙන්න ඕන. හරිද? Right. Now the equity introduced by the owner is puta, listen to me. It is 250,000. This is the equity as at this date. Podakina puta. Here I told you the capital is representing an equity, the equity of the business. Equity. And then this bank loan represents liabilities. Why? Bank loan is an external party, no puta, but owner is an internal party. Therefore, equity, balance of equity as at this date is 250,000. Liability is 80,000. Now you may get the total. What is the total assets? Total assets kya puta? It is 330,000. Here we have the total assets. Got it? හරිද බලන්න තේරුණාද බලන්න හැමෝටම? Okay, good. Now this is right the total assets of the business. Hari. Now let's move to the next one. Please take out your red pens. Impact of transactions of the business with the external parties. Puta, if you can highlight this one. මෙන්න මේක highlight කරගන්න. External parties කියන එක highlight කරගන්න. Something very important. Now, when the business is acquiring resources from the external party, this is how it records. This is how it influences the accounting equation. හොඳට අහගන්න පුතා. Now what the business is doing? Business is acquiring the resources from the external parties. Now think, what happens in the business? What is going to be changed? When the business has acquired resources from external parties, this is what happens. Pute, at first, assets increase. Assets increase. And liabilities increase. Right? Increase. This is what happens. But be very careful. When the business has acquired resources from the external parties, equity doesn't change. Equity, right? Not changed. Sorry. Equity not changed. Are we clear? Are we clear now? Great. Assets increase, liabilities increase, but equity not changed. පැහැදිලිද මං කියන දේ පුතා? නියමයි. හරිද? Right. Now, I think I'll have written the answer. Right. මේකත් කැමති නම් පැත්තකින් ලියලා තියාගන්න වටිනවා. පුතේ මට උත්තර දෙන්න බලන්න ඊළඟ එකට. Activity number 8. හරිම ලේසි. හරිම ලේසි. Now once again, when the business has acquired resources from the external party, what happens? Assets increases, liabilities increase, but equity doesn't change. දැන් මේක බලන්නකෝ පුතා මේ. කොච්චර ලස්සනද බලන්න මේක. හරිද? Caldera Traders has acquired a bank loan valued 80,000. Now we know that the bank loan is a liability. Bank loan is a liability. Right? So when you read this transaction, you have to understand the equity is not changing. There is no influence on equity. But what happens when the business obtains a bank loan? The business increases assets named cash. Therefore, I have to add, use the plus sign always when the value increases in the accounting equation. Assets plus 80,000 pute, no change in the equity, but look at this equal sign. It means two sides have to be identical, and liabilities also increased by 80,000. Do we understand each other? If you like, you can write the content like this. The name of the assets that increases is, right? Name of the asset that increases is cash. Cash. And the name of the liability that increases is bank loan. Una මේවත් ලියලා තියාගන්න පුතේ. Okay, as a result of this transaction, asset named cash increases while a liability called bank loan increases. හරිද පුතා? ලියාගන්න. Then question number 9. හොඳට බලන්න පුතා. පහන් traders purchased goods valued. Goods. Not cash. 25,000 on credit. Credit. It's a new transaction to all of you. What we have done, a business has purchased goods. Okay, let me speak about this word a bit. මම goods කියන වචනේ මම තේරුම් කරලා දෙන්න මේ විදිහට. අහගන්නකො පැටියෝ. Right? Goods. මෙන්න මේක කොහරි තැනක ලියා ගන්න. පුතේ, goods means anything, right, that a business purchases with the purpose of මෙන්න වැදගත්ම වචනේ reselling. Anything that a business purchases with the purpose of what? Reselling. නැවත විකුණන්න. ආපහු විකුණන්න මේක ගන්නෙ. හරිද පුතා? දැන් ඔය පොඩි දේවල් පාඩම් කරගෙන ඉන්න පැටියෝ. So, do you know, in accounting there are synonyms for the word goods. Synonyms means equal words, right? Similar words, right? Goods are also introduced as Dishans, at the back of the tutorial. You can write this at the back of the tutorial, right? Because these are the special words. Okay, Dishans? Right. Now look at this. Goods are also introduced as inventory. And also it is called as the stock. Right? මේක ටිකක් දිග වචනයකුත් තියෙනවා. ඒ තමයි, sorry, tradable items. Okay, children. Now this is what you mean by the goods. Anything that a business purchases with the purpose of reselling is called as goods. Okay, puta? Harida. Now, Let's move to the next. Question number 9. Now this time the business has purchased goods anyway. In accounting equation, goods is also recognized as assets. Now what happens? As a result of this, you should understand there is no change in the equity. Equity වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ පුතා. No change in the equity. But what happens? An asset increased by 25,000. The name of that asset is goods or stock. Stock. And we have to get the equal sign. This equation agreed. Make විතරක් ලියුවොත් ඔයා වැරදි පුතා. There should be another entry in the other side of the equation. That increases liabilities by 25,000. Learn a new word today. Learn a new word today. Puta, the name of the liability is creditors. Creditors. Okay, creditors. Liaga. Puta, do you know, right? දැන් මම මෙතන තව චූටි නෝට් එකක් දෙනවා. මෙන්න මෙතනම ලියා ගන්න ඕවා. හරිද? වැදගත් දේවල් පුතේ. Right? Credit purchasers generates a liability yeah, if you like, you can write this in the same place, Puta. In the same place, if you like. හරිද? මේ පොඩි දේවල් ලියලා තියාගන්න. Liability named creditors. Credit purchases of goods generates a liability named creditors. වැදගත් වේ ඉස්සරහට. හරිද? Good. Okay, children. Now, this is what happens when the business obtains, right, resources from the external party. Now, I think you can understand. Puta, when you obtain a loan, we have to settle it also, no? Am I clear with you? In the next section, B, I'm speaking about that part. Right, there's a question. Yeah, the sentence. Credit purchases of goods generates a liability named creditors. Okay, great. Now, Puta, okay, Pute, right. Now, I told you, as we obtain loans from other parties, we have to settle them. අපිව settle කරන්නත් එපේ. නේද? Now, this is how it records the settlement of liabilities in an accounting equation. When the business settles the liabilities, right? If you can remember the definition of liability, I told you at the settlement, there is an outflow of resources. Try to recall the definition of a liability. Present obligation created as a result of a past transaction, which generates an outflow of resources at the settlement. Therefore, when the business settles the liability, what happens initially is this: decrease decrease assets. Decrease assets. And don't forget, it decrease the liabilities as well. බලන්න හරිද කියලා. හරිම ලේසියිනේ පුතා. මේ අමාරු දෙයක්ද? මේ මොනවද මේනේ? අපි O level අපි කතා කරපු දේවල් එක මේ මොනවද? Science maths එක මේ මොනවද? That is why I'm telling you, this is a subject where everybody who has an average knowledge can obtain an A pass. Try to understand these things. But do you know, last week, right before the last week, I had to correct some of the O-level papers who sits for O-levels this year. Majority is good. But do you know, I found a paper where he has obtained for the second part just 4 out of 60. 4. ළමයෙක්ට එච්චර දුර්වල වෙන්න බෑ මම හිතන විදියට. For a subject like this, right? None of the students can be incompetent like that. I was right, talk to him personally also. මගේ ඉස්කෝලේ දරුවෙක් බොහොම ආදරේ මට. I have been calling him, I have been asking him to concentrate on his studies. He always tells me, yes sir, I'm starting it today, but he never starts. He's never started. So children, don't be late. So go through that, study it. In your school still you haven't started this lesson, this subject either. Now you have a base, you have a foundation. So why don't you take the advantage of it? Right? Good. Now let's move to the next question. Question number 10. Now can you all remember Caldera took a loan in activity number 8? No. Now what he has done, Caldera has settled or repaid 15,000 to the bank loan installment. Now once again, try to understand, it has no influence on equity. Why? The business has settled a liability using the assets of the business. Are we clear? Right. Let's complete the transaction now. Repaid 15,000 as the bank loan installment. As a result of that, I think you know, assets decreased by 15,000. Name of the asset is cash. Cash. Right? And a liability is also decreasing. And the name of the liability is bank loan. Bank loan. See how simple it is, Puta. Next one, number 11. Pahan Traders has settled 20,000 to creditors. Now, I think you can understand, when a business, when a shop purchases goods on credit from a supplier, right? Later, the shop has to settle the sufficient money to that particular supplier, right? It is true that you receive an asset called goods. But when the settlement is done, that has to be made through cash. Am I clear with you? You purchase the goods on credit, but the settlement has to be made in cash. Therefore, Puta, what happens here is this. Once again, try to understand, no change in the equity. Why? The business is using the cash of the business to settle the liability, not the cash of the owner. Owner's money is not used here. It is using the cash of the business. Therefore, what happens? Assets decreased by 20,000. Once again, the name of the asset is cash. And it decreases liabilities by 20,000. This time the name of the liability is what? Mama කලින් කිව්වේ. Creditors. Creditors. අමාරුද පැටියෝ මේක? අමාරු දෙයක්ද? නැහැ නේද? ආසාවෙන් ඉගෙන ගන්න. හරි? Right. These are the answers for question number 10 and 11. 10 and 11. Right. Now look at, I'm going to erase this. The next activity. Next activities. Number 12. Number 12. The assets and liabilities of Tharuka traders as at 1st of January 2021 were 450,000 and 150,000 respectively. Look at this. Look at this very, very carefully. They have given you the balances of, right, assets and liabilities. Assets and liabilities. And it is asking you to calculate the balance of equity. Mama putata tappara 30ක් දෙනවා. උත්තර දෙන්න ඉපන්න. Just 30 seconds. 30 seconds only. නියමයි අශේන්. ඔය තියෙන්නේ. දැන් තේරෙනවද පැටියෝ? අනිත් ලරුව. අශේන් නියමයි. Yes. What is the equity? Equity කිය. අමාරුද බලන්න? නෑ additions. නෑ. හොඳට බලන්න additions. Can it be 600,000? No. මම පෙන්නනම් උත්තරේ ගන්න විදිය. හරිද? Right. මේ බලන්න මට හිතුණා කවුරු එක්ක ඉන්නේ කොයි උත්තරේ කියයි කියලා. කමක් නෑ පුතා. අපි ඉගෙන ගමු. Now I think you know the basic accounting equation. You all are familiar with that. And that is assets equals equity plus liabilities. හරිද? දැන් මම අහන්නේ මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක්. In this formula, how to subject equity? Now give me the answer. How to calculate the equity? How to subject the equity? Tell me. මේ තියෙන්නේ maths. අමාරු maths උත් නෙමෙයි. Simple maths. දැන් කියන්න පැටියෝ. දැන් උත්තරේ වට හම්බ වෙන්න ඕන. අන්න හරි. ඔයාලට තේරෙනවද පුතා? Now this is a small math. What is it? Equity equals assets minus liabilities. Then තේරෙනවද? Alright. Assets minus liabilities. අන්න හරි දුනිති. Dishans තේරුණාද පුතා? Now here I have given you assets 450,000. Equity doesn't know. Let's put an X there. Liability is 150. Then how to calculate equity? Assets 450,000 minus the liability is 150,000. Therefore, equity is how much? 300,000. ඔන්න උත්තරේ. හොඳට ගාන කියවන්න පුතා. දැන් තේරෙනවද පුතේ? කොනිත් ළමයි වට උත්තර දෙනවනේ සනුක, right? බිනන්, දුනිති, රෙසන් ෆර්නැන්ඩෝ, විබු. Do you understand what I'm saying here? හරිම ලේසි පුතා. Right? Great. නියමයි පුතා. Perfect. Vibu, do you understand it පුතේ? Vibu? Do you understand? Right, perfect. Now, The answer for question number 12 is this. This is how we find the answer. Right? Assets 450,000 minus the liabilities 150,000. Equity is 300,000. Okay. Question number 13. The equity and the liabilities of Gamunu traders is 360,000 and 180,000. Now this time they are asking assets. Equation assets equals to what? Equity plus liabilities. Equity is 360. Equity 360,000. Liability is 180,000 plus. Give me the answer, Puta. What is the assets as at 1st of January? Assets key. How much is the assets? Mama kiyanna. Mokada lamai mahansi karanne neda. Pawune asarana lamai. Asarana daru. Yes, Ashen. It is 540,000. Assets is 540,000 rupees. Yes, perfect. Perfect. Then Tirunada Puta. Huh? Right. Now, with all that understanding, can you answer activity number 14? Another simple one. Harima lesiyat. Habai hondata kiyawanna. They have given you assets and equity this time and asking you to calculate the liabilities. I need the correct answer. Then if assets equals equity and the liabilities, how to subject the liabilities? How to subject the liabilities? Me hannako. Harriyata hari. Decisions then Tirunada Puta. Sanuka, Vibu, Duniti, Mehagan. It's very simple. Assets 580. Out of these assets, owners have invested assets worth 450. Then when you subtract these two, you can obtain the liabilities. Duniti balan haridi kiyala. It is not 150. It should be 130. Duniti balana puta. Liabilities is 130. 580 minus 450 is 130. And that is your liabilities. Huh? Harida on accounting. Always remember, the assets of a business should equal to the total of equity and the liabilities. Are we clear? Are we clear? Now the next one, Pute, can you answer 15th activity? Activity number 15. Okay, start it now. If you have done, send me the answers. A, B, C, and D. Right. Some have sent the answers. Abbalam. First one. You have been given with the assets and the liabilities. How to get the equity? Minus the liabilities. Then how much is it? 540. Sorry. It is 520. 520 is the equity. Now you have been given with Sanuka Hari Aguttara. Assets 740. Equity 680. What is the liabilities? It is 60,000. Then see, liabilities is 160, equity is 540, assets should be the addition 700,000, assets of the business, 700,000. And then D, assets 665, that includes liabilities worth 135. What is the equity? It is 530,000. Finally, assets 554,000, equity 395,000. Yes, decisions, right? Liability should be the difference between these two. It is 159. Is that correct? Is that correct? Yes. Harida? Simple. Now, then on the minna mega namanga homework. Number 16 is a homework. Let me give you, right, how to answer that type of a question. Let me show you this whiteboard again. Right? Now, this is the basic accounting equation. What is the basic accounting equation? Assets equals equity plus liabilities. Right? This is the basic accounting equation. I told you that the assets can be classified under two arrangements. First one, non-current assets. And what is the other type? Current assets. Okay. This is how you classify the assets. Then extend. Then can you remember we classified the equity also, right? Equity is also two types. That is non-current. Sorry, liabilities also two types. Non-current liabilities and current liabilities. Now, this is how you classify the assets and liabilities. Do you know? Now I can rearrange or extend the basic accounting equation like this. That is non-current assets plus current assets equals to the equity plus the non-current liabilities plus the current liabilities. Non-current assets plus current assets equals equity plus non-current liabilities plus current liabilities. දැන් මම චූටි මම මේවට දැන් abbreviations ටිකක් දාගන්න. හරිද? මෙන්න මේ වයින් තමයි හදන්න ඕන දාන්න. හරිද? Right? මෙන්න මේව ලියා ගන්න. Right? Now the first equation is this. පළවෙනි එක. Non-current assets plus current assets equals equity plus non-current liabilities plus current liabilities. Okay. Equity. Now, the second, make up the godak vidira pavichchi karanna puluwan. Then equity equals, make a therunada balanna. Non-current assets plus current assets minus non-current liabilities plus current liabilities. From assets, again, assets minus liabilities. Agreed? Harida? Make own on vidira denna puluwan puta. Number 3. In this format, try to figure out how to calculate the non-current assets. Harida? How to calculate the non-current assets. What kalpana karan? Mehema neda balanna wenna ona. From equity plus non-current liabilities plus current liabilities, we have to remove the current assets. Number 4, then cannot give me the formula to calculate the current assets. How to calculate the current assets? Again, from this side, that means equity plus non-current liabilities plus current liabilities. This time remove the non-current assets. පුතේ මේ ටික පුතාගේ නෝට් ඔකට පුතේ එක්ක අර අපි අර තියෙන ස්ටිකි නෝට්ස් කියලා ඒකක ලියලා මේ ටික අලව ගන්න. Are we clear? Right. Number 5, next one. Puta, how to subject the non-current liabilities. Then මේ වගේ equation දෙකක තමයි ඊළඟට වඩ කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. Now to calculate the non-current liabilities, what you should do? I think you know the maths දන්නවනේ නේද? Right? We have to solve the brackets first. From the addition of non-current assets and current assets, we have to subtract the addition of equity and the current liabilities. කොච්චර දිගට පාඩම යනවද කියලා. අපි දන්න දේවල් හොඳද මේ අලුත් දේවල් නෙමෙයි. Because we have worked with right equations right from grade 6 as I guess. Neda? Right. Next one, number 6. Number 6. How to subject current liabilities. අර වගේම තමයි පුතා. Non-current assets, that means plus current assets, that means from the total of assets, subtract the equity and the non-current liabilities this time. Here we have a variety of equations. So I think you have to go through the recorded session. අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ඒක follow කරන්න. ඒක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අවශ්‍ය දෙයක්. Then you will understand all these things. Okay, children? තේරුණාද පැටියෝ? නියමයි. Now I'm taking you to the tutorial again. Right? I'm taking you to the tutorial. Right, ළමයි, please note that you are answering number 16 as a homework. හැමෝටම පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන කරන්න. Those who are watching the record session also, it is going to be a homework. Right? Number 17. Let's move to number 17. Right. Following transactions have been extracted from Vijita traders for the month ending 31st of January. We have to record. The requirement is to show the impact of the above transactions to the basic accounting equation given below. Now, who is Vijita? Vijita කියන්නේ කවුද පුතා? Who is Vijita? Vijita is the owner. මෙයා තමයි owner. Right? Now, transaction 1. Vijita invested 150,000 valued cash as capital. What happens? There is no change in the liabilities. But assets increased by 150,000. Equity is also increased by 150,000. But once again, don't forget to use the plus signs. Put name of the assets. Asset is cash. Name of the equity is capital. Cash and capital. Okay. B. Vijita invested, once again, Vijita is the owner. Motor vehicle valued 200,000 as capital. Does liabilities changes? No. Liability doesn't change. Right? But asset valued 200,000 is increased, asset side increases. So as the equity plus 200,000. This time, the name of the assets increased is motor vehicle. Motor vehicle කියලා. And the name of the equity that increases is once again capital. Motor vehicle capital. Read transaction C. The business has obtained a bank loan. The business has obtained this loan from an external party. So this time, equity doesn't change. Neither. Anyway, after obtaining the loan, assets is increased by 80,000. So as the liabilities. Okay. Name of the asset is cash. And the name of the liability is bank loan. Cash, bank loan. Okay. Transaction D. I think you can remember this transaction. Purchased what? Goods. Huh? Valued 20,000 on credit. Try to understand. Does equity changes? No. This, as a result of this transaction, no change in the equity. So don't write the integer, just draw a line. And however, as a result of transaction D, assets increased by 20,000. And liabilities also increased by 20,000. Assets increased by 20,000. Liabilities increased by 20,000. Now, what happens? What are the assets? What is the asset that increases? Stock. And the name of the liability is, can someone tell me the name of the liability here? When the business purchased goods on credit, I told you a special liability account is used. What is the name of that? Niyamai puta. Sanuka terunada? Niyamai. It is, Vibu matak karaganna. It is creditors. Then mataka tiyaganna oy wachane. Creditors increases. Got it? Now, transaction E. The owner withdrew 10,000 for his personal use. Right? I'm going to erase these drawings for a moment. The owner withdrew, right, rupees 10,000 for his personal use. E. But this time, liabilities doesn't change. That means what is this transaction? The owner has used 10,000 cash out of the business for his private use. Now, what happens in the business? Assets decreased by 10,000. Use minus sign. Assets adu venum. Try to think. As a result of this transaction, the balance of the equity is also decreased. That means assets called cash is decreased and equity called capital is also decreased. Cash, capital. Okay. Next. Transaction F. Paid 15,000 for bank loan. Paid 15,000 for bank loan. This time, equity doesn't change. Why? This settlement has done with the cash of the business. Then මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ? Assets minus 15,000. ඇයි පැටියෝ? සල්ලි යනවනේ එළියට. And that decreases your liability as well. Agreed? And the name of the asset is cash. And the name of the liability is bank loan. Transaction G. Paid 8,000 to creditors. Business has settled 8,000. What I told you, equity doesn't change. However, assets decreased by 8,000, Puta. So as the liabilities decreased by 8,000. Got it? Then, what is the name of the assets that decrease? Once again, I told you, the settlement is always done in cash. Cash decreases assets. And a liability called, again, what? Creditors. Sorry. Decreases. තේරුණාද පුතා? මම මේ කියන දේ තේරුණාද? Okay, නියමයි. Now, again a homework. හරිම ලේසි පැටියෝ. හරිද? Right. Now, activity number 18. හරිද? Activity number 18. හරිද? I have given you the transactions now. As a result of the first transaction, assets increased by 160, equity increased by 160. හරිද? You have to describe the transaction. What you had to say? The name of the owner is Amilane. Amila has invested rupees 160,000 as capital. That's it. මේ ටිකම තමයි උතන තියෙන වෙන මොකුත් නෙමෙයි හොඳද? මේ transactions ටිකම values ටික වෙනස් කරලා දාන්න. හරිද? So I want to see all your completed tutorials today. Today itself. අදම දෙන්න පුතා. So that it is easy for me to go through the corrections. And I think you have understood today's lesson. බලන්න කොච්චර දෙයක් අපි වැදගත් දෙයක් ඉගෙන ගත්තද කියලා. නේද? පුතා, from probably by next week මට මේ ඔක්කොම මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ වෙන්නේ මේ අපේ power failure එකත් එක්ක. මුකුත් කරගන්න වෙන්නේ නැහැ පුතා. Right? Even that paper class won't be able to conduct in time because most of the students can't join at that time. So I was planning to extend the time by half an hour, the class, but I have to check it once again with the power failures thing. Right? මොකද මට දැන් මේකින් පස්සේ තව class එකක් තියෙනවා කරන්න. That is for the A-level batch. Right? So therefore children, anyway, try to understand the situation, right? And get the maximum use of the recorded sessions also, right? And let's see what are the ways that I can help you. And children, right? I'm starting a physical class this week. This week මේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට පටන් ගන්න ඊළඟ week එකේ. මම දාලා තිබ්බේ මයි මාසේ 10 කියලා නේද? හෙට නෙමෙයි පටන් ගන්නෙ. Yes. I'm starting the class on 10th. 10th Tuesday, right? 10 වෙනිදා මම පටන් ගන්නවා පුතේ පන්තිය. And if you have your new friends, right? Ask them to join because I'm covering up the syllabus from the beginning, but it is going to be a speed class, right? Tuts ඔක්කොම මම අරගෙන දෙනවා. But I have to increase the fee, right, by 500 rupees because of the printing cost and everything. I have to give a portion to the hall also, right? Therefore, the fees is 1,500 rupees. And if you have your friends, ask them to join the class, and it will be a great experience, right? On the experience එකක් වෙයි හැමෝටම. එහෙනම් පුතා අපි until we meet again on next week, go through the sessions and may God bless you. Good morning. Have a good day.